We're in Acts chapter 13, the very last verse of what we have as chapter 13. And I say it a bazillion times, but Paul didn't write in chapters and verses. He wrote a letter. Luke, he didn't write in chapters and verses. He wrote the narrative. I'm glad we have it in chapters and verses today because it makes locating a specific thought a whole lot easier. But, okay, I'm kind of in a mood today, and I can't guarantee two things. I will not be able to guarantee today. Number one, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay on topic. And number two, I don't know if what I've got to say makes any difference to anybody. So let's read verse 52. And the disciples were filled with joy and the Holy Spirit. Talked about this a little bit last time, but I want to come back to it because it is a big and important idea. The disciples were filled with joy. I'm not sure our culture understands what joy is. We generally, I think joy and happiness are equated. They're, synonyms, one for the other. I don't think that's the case. I think happiness, the nature of the word, what is at the root of happiness? HAPPENING, happening. Happiness is very circumstantial. Certain things happen, and we're happy. Is it evil? No. It's a wonderful gift from God. Is it joy? No. And sometimes it's the result of joy, but there are times when it's possible to have joy and not happiness. So what is joy? Well, I think joy is it's an emotion, and it's a deep emotion that involves a sense of gratitude. It involves a sense of anticipation. It involves a sense of history. Here's why. First, a sense of history. Joy can be, and I think often is, the result of reflecting on the reliability, dependability, faithfulness of God in my life. There are days when everything falls apart and life feels like garbage. And on those days, I'm tempted to listen to the lies of my enemy, the devil, who says, "What's just your life? I mean, think about it, dude. Your life is just this is just how it is. In all of your life, everything about your life, this today is okay. Don't deny it. Don't be stupid." Well, that's not true. This is one day, maybe one season, 1 week, 1 month, even if it's 1 year. It's not my whole life. Okay, I have to look back into my own history and experience with God and remind myself of His faithfulness. Because if His faithfulness is not there, if He is not faithful, if He's not dependable, if He's not reliable, why would then joy becomes nothing more than, think positive, the power of a positive life. And there's no doubt power in a positive life, but that's not where joy starts, okay? Joy starts with the dependability of God, the faithfulness of God. Joy is sometimes, I would say, spontaneous. I mean, it's like, I didn't plan for this. But there it is, joy. Cool. In my life, very often, I would even say most often, joy is a result of how I discipline my thoughts. Joy is a feeling, but it often is not, I don't feel my way to joy. And now you may, but I don't. Here's what I think happens. See, on the other side of joy, I mean, the opposite side of joy is what? Well, sorrow would be over there. But no, I'm not sure that that's a big enough picture, because think about this. Have you not known people who were in a season of deep sorrow, and yet there was this burning joy still present in their lives? I have experienced it myself. In the loss of both of my parents and their deaths, I had deep sorrow. But I did have this joy. And where did the joy come from? It didn't come from denial. It didn't come from somebody coming alongside and patting me on the shoulder and saying, "They're there." It came from a fact that I rested on, the dependability of God, because I'm totally convinced that both my mom and my dad, when they took their last breath, they awakened into their eternal home with Christ, and that gave me joy. When my mom died with Alzheimer's, it's hard for me to tell, was it of Alzheimer's or with Alzheimer's? I don't really know, but what I do know is she was not who she was at the end. And part of my joy was knowing now she is fully who she is in the presence of Jesus. Well, okay, I can go on and on and on, but the point is, joy, this kind of joy, this biblical joy, is founded in the reliability of God. Nehemiah, they had a celebration as the city was being rebuilt, the walls were being rebuilt. At the same time, Ezra was at the forefront of rebuilding the temple, and the people were very sad. And Nehemiah said, "Go home, enjoy the joy of the Lord is your strength." We sing that in junior church and at church camp, and it was kind of fun. I don't think I, even as a young adult, understood the depth of the joy of the Lord. If it's the joy of the Lord, it comes back to He makes me glad. He is the source of my joy. I mean, just a question. You may be wired where joy is your default. One of my dearest friends in all the world has a wiring of joy for his default. I love being around him. It lifts me when I am around him. But he's not stupid. He's not pretending that life is not difficult. He's not denying that there are some dramatic challenges in his life. But God, I think, how much was nature and how much was nurture, I don't think we'll ever be able to know. But I do know, on the basis of both his nature and his parental nurture, joy, it's who he is. That's how he's wired. Me, I'm not blaming my parents. I'm not blaming my chromosomes. I don't know exactly where to pin it, but I'm not so positive. I don't have this joy default wiring. And yet, I do have joy. And sometimes it gets overwhelmed by sadness and sorrow. It sometimes gets overwhelmed by negative turns of events. It gets overwhelmed by disappointment, but it's still there. Now, the disciples at Pisidian Antioch, Luke records that they were filled with joy. I want to be filled with joy. My difficulty is that I leak. I believe God intends to fill me with joy, and I think he also intends that I will partner with him to produce the joy by reflecting on his faithfulness. All right. I don't think it's a good idea for me to just pound away at this joy thing. So my challenge is looking into your own life. If there's no objective way to do it, you have to be very subjective, and that's okay. Let's be subjective here. Do you feel, because it's a feeling thing, do you feel like I've got joy? Now, above that on the scale would be to be filled with joy. If I'm filled with joy, it's going to show. It's going to affect people around me. I am not filled with joy. I have joy, but I'm not filled, and I'm seeking this from God. And if you feel you're not filled with joy, join me and seek this from God. It's not just this isolated joy thing, all right? That Luke records the disciples were filled with joy and with the Holy Spirit. When the Holy Spirit is given full and free reign in my life, when I open myself to his, domination in my life, he brings the fruit of that into my life. Paul wrote about the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. 9 virtues. Number 2 on that list is joy. Now, when I feel joy absent, is that because I'm squelching the Holy Spirit? Could be. There are times when I have, and one of the results when I resist the Holy Spirit is it's really hard to experience joy in that. And I'm not even sure I can adequately describe what life with embracing the Holy Spirit and his work in my life looks like. But I do know that abiding joy and the presence of the Holy Spirit are connected. If I am to be filled with joy, I've got to be filled with the Holy Spirit. And this raises a number of theological questions that I'm not going to answer today. I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.